I'm Daryl Sellers, and I'm here with a great panel of people: Nevin Taylor, James Page, Terrence Brown, and then everyone knows Elder Toom. We have just some things to talk about. Some of it will be impromptu, free flowing, which helps to keep us going and helps to keep us knowing. Okay, I'm stopped. Because we're going to get to talking about hip hop later. I just thought about that. But, let's start off. It's great to have Elder Toom with us. We're getting through another week. We're into May. Spring is springing. 80 degrees is coming up. So, what's on your mind now? We're kind of on a hiatus from the Black Moms, which you do a great job of, and glad to be a part of that. I see you have a book there. What's on your mind as we get close to a special occasion?
Well, first I want to say hello and good afternoon, and it is afternoon, and hotep to everyone in the community. And we want to, what's on my mind is you.
Oh,
what is on my mind is you, the men in this work. You are the men in this work who have made a deep commitment that is so profound that we want to, number one, celebrate it, but also get you to go to the places of depth that we know you have. And so in the gatherings where we sit together, you tell us these things that's just putting us in a really, really good place of self-assessment and accountability and growth and healing of our people. And it has to take both you, as you have declared and know, and it also takes the sisters, the women, the mothers. So what's on my mind today is you.
Oh, thank you.
And so don't be surprised if this is going to ask questions with an expectation of an answer, much different than what your other two have been. At the same time, where you were in the last two was the place you needed to be. So this is just a level of depth and going further down. And you, Mr. Darrell, get to be a part of the deep dive, and Mr. Nevin, who really and truly talked to me about this, Mr. Berta and I, quite some time ago, especially when you, Nevin, were in the midst of looking at your life. This is not about looking at my life like life, but he has an idea about the difference between life. And so I want to start with you, Nevin. Tell us these two words that you use that has to come from your own personal experience.
Perspective.
I'd like to start by saying our Sunday gatherings and chats are over. We're not going to be sharing and doing all that because I want to keep that in the house. Yeah, I want to keep that. So these two words that I said, I ain't told nobody about these words. Now you want me to talk about these words.
Do tell.
But it's not rocket science. It's not nothing that's. I just think that a lot of us think about things and we just comb over them. So I've been kind of playing with this ideal of especially over these past 18 months of my life, is it life or live? And I really been trying to figure out where I'm at, what's going on, kind of what is the process of either, and really distinguishing between the two without putting the two together.
Yes.
And that's kind of the small snapshot of what
yes.
I'll say.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned, excuse me, Brother Darrell, you mentioned this is not around the kitchen table. It is not behind the corners of our house. So how many years did we go through where we had what actually was almost like Sunday dinner therapy?
Well, it was.
How many years?
It was some years. The ones that I remember and probably didn't have somewhere else to be, or
Yes.
traveling or something.
Yes.
Basketball was. I probably started around 11 years old.
Yes.
11 years old, and
Yes.
and the whole premise that a lot of us, I think all of us, is that when they came out with that show Soul Food. And they came out with the Sunday dinner soul food, like before or after church, or it was just it was just one.
Yes.
That's kind of. I started laughing about that because I'm like, that's us, and we would have guests, and we
Yes.
talk about,
Yes.
what's going on.
But the thing about talking about what's going on for brothers is that in our house, the Sunday dinner was a place where we really, personally, and I think other people, parents too, had a topic while I was making food. As a matter of fact, I came up with this topic. So when you look back, were some of the topics that come up for you now as we sit around this table? As you sit around this table, what are some of the topics that came up for you? Nevin talks about living and so forth. What were some of the topics that you see now coming forward into your living?
So I'll pipe into this. As I think back, I lost both of my parents within this decade. And I remember a lot of generational things that were subjects at the dinner table, not just Sunday, but quite often, as preparing the next generation. And my mom loved to write, and I still have some things she wrote to me and would give to me about, you're doing this, but how was your walk? A, B, and C, this verse, this lesson. This was something I was seeing in my 40s and beyond. So those kind of things were always
But you're
central.
seeing them in your 40s, but they came you from them in your early years.
Even 20s, even in high school, even in elementary school. So as we grew up in the church, me and my sisters, Beretta and Sherilyn, we had those great stories that also came. We went to Arkansas from our grandmother, Trudy Mae Carr. So those things we could say, oh, this is how they were. And even though things may have been different, how they were brought to us, the central theme stood the test of time.
Yes, now I can see, I saw you nodding, Brother Terrence. You were remembering something.
Oh, well, you mentioned Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
So my mother's family is from Arkansas, Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, been through there.
Yeah. A resort town.
Resort?
Yes, the Hot Springs are a tourist
Springs,
attraction.
Arkansas, yes.
And it wasn't too long ago, my aunt, her birthday, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, we have a family chat. And in the family chat, we're just sharing type of things, and someone's having something going on, just an opportunity to stay connected. And she posted a picture, black and white picture from my question was like, when is this picture from and who's in it?
And what year was it?
And what year was it? Yeah.
How far?
So, because I'm like, I see people who kind of look like me, like family members. So then I find out that it's, a big, looks like it was after church in the grassy area. Probably about 40, 50 people in there. And has my great-great-grandfather. He was the oldest one. He was sitting. And then it has, other relatives, my great-grandmother, so on and so on.
Were you there?
No, this was in the 1940s. It was taken. I was
just checking.
I was just like in awe of it because I saw all these were standing upright, who held themselves to a certain standard and level. And so it was just beautiful. And then it called me to the remembrance of my great-grandmother. And I had the privilege to know her. I grew up with her. She was the one in our family who hosted the Sunday dinner. And the radical thing that she did is, no matter what you're doing or whatever, she was just the person who always made you feel accepted, like you're at home. And so, that was.
Come on over here, or come on up here, boy, or come on, boy, and tell me what it is you think about that kind of stuff. And it was very,
and so that was, that's, look at my sisters, my brothers. It's just one of our fondest memories, just having that time with her, with family. As kids, we'd run around and have fun with our cousins.
I'm gonna get back to what you all talked about too in a second and what comes forward to you. Brother James, are you remembering some of these times that's just like this where we're sitting around the table?
Yeah, my family from Arkansas too.
Wow.
So
What city or town?
Marlboro, Arkansas.
Hmm.
But I do got some in Hot Spring, Arkansas too. But yeah, I would think about with my grandparents and all of them. Some of the stories I can't remember what we were talking about, but I just remember the feeling of all of us together.
Yes.
Yeah, just how united we felt. You know, it wasn't a lot of division like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we went through it, but you didn't really see it or feel it as much as you do now.
Time, yeah.
And kind of now, it seems like at the table is usually talking about what's in the news lately.
Yes.
Compared to back then, it was talking about what we all was really doing.
Oh, tell us about the feeling. Name it. What did it feel like? What did it feel like?
It felt like we were a village.
Oh, it felt like a village.
Yeah, that we were really a tribe together. You know, the outside world was out there, and we was able to deal with that, but this was our world.
Yes, now we use the words these days of tribe and village, but back then, go back to what were the words that may have been used to describe what was happening? Maybe, Nevin, I see you nodding. What would have been, what is now called a village or a tribe, what would you have described it as?
I think it still goes back to, I talked about, and I did this small interview about being a part of the Cultural Wellness Center. And it's kind of like, you were talking about community back when I was, and actually I had a great conversation with a longtime friend. And I was telling him, he was asking about my goals and different stuff back when I was like 16 and 17. And we were talking about it. I was like, I used to get this 200 acres and I want to build this Black community. And I want everyone to have a house. And I want all of our kids to grow up together, go to the schools together. And so that's kind of the thing that goes in my mind is that community. It really was about community.
It was about community. And the feeling though, did you feel like you belonged? Who felt like you belonged? And even back then, you didn't have that belonging word. You weren't saying to yourself, I feel like I belong. But there was something that had no words.
It just happened.
It happened.
Right.
And there was something happening inside of you, besides the fact that you were wishing that everybody would stop talking and let you all go to play, because I know that was something. But what would you say back then was the word that came to you as you participated?
I'd say it's relationships, kinships, community.
Yes.
I remember, I'm not saying it's a lost art now of communities, but I remember, the Muirs down the alley. Oh, Daryl, you need to go home now. Or the Browns next door. Okay, Daryl and Brett and Sherry, make sure you're not doing this. We had these neighborhood people checking up on us and also welcoming us.
That's correct.
So it was like a community within a community, going to people's homes, playing with kids. Just things were so carefree. We didn't have to worry. I know times change. We didn't have to worry about it. No, we could stay out till midnight or so to play 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And my sisters and I, we were in elementary school. We didn't have to worry about those things. Yeah. It was just some of those things we grew up with that brought together those kinds of community. Yes. And then that also extended to church, the different groups, the choirs, the mission group. Yes. And just, those communities coming together, those groups coming together, being so central. I probably went to church 5 times a week growing up because my mom was in about everything from mission to drama club, choir, ushers, and everything. I know everything. I know. So I found out from a young age what that meant with those kind of relationships. And then I just thought of a story too. I like to write poetry, and I like to write. I remember I was age 12, and it was for Easter, and I did something about my Redeemer lives, and I added my own spin. So I read it to my mom, and she said, "Oh, good, you can read it in front of church." And I'm like, so I did. I know, I did. Not only that, then we had an evening service, and our Reverend Terry wasn't there. We had the associate minister. And they said, "Yes, the elder's here now. Reverend Terry, Daryl, read it again." So
those were
those are special times.
There's some words though too. There are no words because we have a lot of words these days. We have lots and lots of words, but we do not have feelings that we can actually express as you could see people expressing in that room. Everything, storytelling and so forth, food was good and so forth. But people, there was something they were feeling, and we were all feeling, that had no words. There was nobody left who said, I feel loved. But you did feel loved.
It was there.
So as you think about where you are as men, brothers, is it difficult for you now to name what it is that happened then that you now want to get back to? Think about where you are now. Think about what is almost like a disassociation from your feelings. Think about that, and one of you talk about your feelings right now.
Okay.
What does it feel like? What is the feeling? Feeling words are, wordless.
Okay.
So let's just go around and see. Let's start. Go around. Feelings.
Well, you said a couple different things. Now you want me to go to a feeling word, but are we saying how compared to then, now, and if we could bring that back, or could we bring this back? I say I'd rather live in the moment that I'm in right now and seeing where we were. We have gone places. I'm excited about the direction, specifically of Black men, of Black people.
Yes.
Very excited.
And where we're going.
And I think that the reality is that I think it's endless. I think it's to the point where do you want to go? Okay, I'm gonna get off the bus here. Ding. It's like, it's gonna be so many stops and so many opportunities. And our mind and having conversations that are like really deep conversations.
Yes.
They're not surface conversations anymore. And even the conversations that are wherever, I don't care where, it could be at school with a parent, or whatever it is. It's a different type of conversation.
Yes.
That, I think Daryl came in one day, or Emmanuel came in one day and said, we're really like 1 or 2 degrees of separation if we just talk. Like, oh, you know that brother? I know his mama, or I know his family, or I know, so it's that type of thing where we're getting back to that, and we're getting back to this community-based where I know Daryl. Daryl grew up in the McCray Park neighborhood. Yeah. We all knew each other. Yeah. We knew which mamas whooped, which mamas fed us.
There's that.
We knew all that stuff.
Right.
And so I think we're trying to slowly get back to that. And that's the goal. That's the hope and the goal.
Yeah, I know it is. And you're talking about it, and at the same time, I'm thinking about what happened that you, brothers, do not talk about your feeling, the future of your feelings, or the possible pain, and the struggle, and the thing that keep you from being comfortable in every place you go. And the comfort that I'm thinking about now would compare to the comfort you felt back then when we were in those settings, or the comfort that we're headed toward. Because I heard you say we were in a place of comfort, probably pain and all of that was not the dominant theme of the day. And now that's where we're headed back to. That's what I heard you say. So that's what I'm asking is, what would you say keeps you from being quite there in spite of the fact that you're headed there? Anybody, because you're...
Terrence?
Anybody?
Sure. When I think about that, I really think about this idea of togetherness and really knowing that you're accepted on all levels. Yeah. And so what I have observed or seen is, the pain of men, the struggles of men is not really accepted. It's something that we always have to push past. we may have inner hopes, we may have inner desires for things, and that often motivates us to do things. But when those get crushed, there's not a space for it, but to move forward. And I think part of it, it's required because we put so much on responsible Black men that there isn't necessarily that space to stop and to dwell in it. And I don't mean dwelling in a place where you get to the point of depression or anxiety, but it's even the opportunity to stop, because the pressure is, as a responsible Black man, you have to keep providing for those that you most love and care about.
Yes.
And so, from your question, that's what I see.
Yes, and I see heads nodding now.
Heads nodding. I know we're keeping our heads held high no matter what we see in the news, all these things about what's happening to Black communities, individuals. Oh, knocked on the wrong door. We always have to be conscious of our Blackness, but also to elevate that Blackness in wonderful ways we know we can do. And James, I know you might have something to say about that on that. What's on your mind?
Kind of recapture some of the things that were lost. Like you said, put a word on it, but some of the things that were lost, it's almost like country life to city life. It's almost like family life to street life. You just feel connected. You feel safe. You feel in that community. You feel safe to just be. But out here, it's you just have to deal with so much. The world shaped you more. Over there, you was allowed to grow and be what you want to be. Out here, the streets, whatever, it kind of shaped you to a certain way. It molded you to maybe being hard or just dealing with, the things that's out here. Somewhere along the line, you lose the whole family. You lose your personal. You don't fully lose it, but some things build up in you. When they talk about words, don't hurt, but some of these things stick down in your belief and your memory. And when they do come out, they start coming out very differently.
Very different.
Despite the way the world is, how do you still keep that mindset that, I create and control my own destiny? No matter what happens in the background or in the foreground, I can still have that control wherever I want to go. I'm the creator of that.
It's just a twofold. But I'll start with this: is that it's very, very difficult to. I've had many conversations on what the perception is of especially Black men, and I used to just get furious, just upset at the fact that, especially when I had my first child, Black men on these commercials, like we changed diapers too. And I was getting mad. And then it was just like, okay, well, that's the image that's portrayed, is that we don't do that. We don't do hair. We don't, drive and drop them off. We don't make the lunches. And we do that. And it goes back to what I think Terrence was saying, is that these are the things that we do, but don't make it difficult. And it's putting them together. Don't make it difficult.
Yeah. Brother Terrence, you said you can't, your pain and so forth, you can't almost stand in it, and it's not acceptable for you to have it. So you almost have to move like you don't have it,
Right.
And carry it with you in spite of the fact that it's still doing what it does, which is what pain does. So I just think that's really something to talk about here. You are no longer doing that, am I right? Is that why you're here today? You're not going to pretend like pain doesn't exist for you?
With me, I'm straight up. I'll tell you in a minute, it hurts. And I think that I learned over time that, I used to hear this story and different stories about crying wolf and different stuff. But for me, it was always a situation in the beginning where I could not say that. I had to push through. I had to figure out a way. It didn't matter. And even when I talked to you about today, I wasn't feeling the best. I had a rough day yesterday. going through some things with these different meds that I'm on. But you know what I said to myself is that one, I've made a decision with these brothers and this wonderful twin of mine that we call twin, and I made a decision. And when we came here the first time, we didn't sign a contract, but I remember going back and saying word is bond. And that's what I did. I gave them my word that even if I have to be in the hospital bed filming, that I was going to be here on Thursdays.
How does that make you feel? Each of you. It made you feel like I'm getting up in spite of the pain.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell them, yes, I had pain.
Yep.
So do you accept the fact that he had to go through pain and a bunch of things to get here today because he had a contract with you, unspoken, but word is bond?
Yeah, that's very revealing and speaks to the bond that we're forming. I know it's just episode 3. They were all going through something differently. And that's what the remote world kind of removed us from, having bonds like this, which is so powerful, invaluable to have these things so we can speak to each other. I do speak, with family. I'm very nostalgic. I may hear a song that reminds me of my mom, reminds me of the 1970s. And, sometimes maybe I go down memory lane. It doesn't wallow me or leave me stuck, but, just to embrace where I've been, but also know where I could be going.
And listen to
And
the
listen
words.
to the words. And that's, I have
listen to the words totally different.
Yeah. Words differently that I might not have seen from my mom, and otherwise when I look at my Bible that she wrote me, now that I'm at a certain age, I'm like, well, I didn't think about that then. Boy, she was so right.
But do each of you do that? Because in terms of you wake up in the morning and have to go to that Bible verse or go to whatever she said in order to feel like you can hang in there today?
It helps. Okay.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a little different for me. I never not think that I can't get through it. But I think there's this thing in the heart, the hidden heart of man, you could call it. There's these hopes, dreams, and visions in the hidden heart of man, and they don't often get spoken. They're more often expressed. And so, and there's this process of going through the world where you are actually trying to fulfill that vision. That hidden vision gives you purpose. So in those moments, I come back to the vision. It inspires me to move forward, not to be locked into the pain.
But you still feel the pain in spite of the fact that you're not locked into it.
Yes, and so that pain has to have somewhere to go. So it's like you can plant new seeds and grow up new things that support the vision. And so that's the best practice rather than holding it in. Another practice, like you were mentioning, is prayer, meditation, that type of stuff, and having that regular part of my morning routine. And I know a lot of people do that as well. And then just talking to people who you've come to trust about those hidden things, at least as much as you're willing to let out. It's a process, because sometimes that hidden heart and that hidden dream, you share it with someone, and for whatever reason, the dynamics of that relationship means that the trust that you had in them gets broken. And so that also creates hurt, and that also creates grief. But knowing and looking at the purpose and focusing on that inspires me to keep moving forward.
All these words, grief, purpose,
celebration, victory, guidance.
Speaking of that, I was going to ask you, and I thought about you and your sons, because I was sitting in the best energy that I could for the tournament, and hoping that y'all just didn't get blew out and had to come all the way back home.
Yeah.
So I did want to say that as well.
How did that go?
It was up and down, but we didn't get blown out.
There you go.
We didn't get blown out. So there were 3 competitive games. We dropped 1 and got 2. But it was, the educating part for all of us is that we start to learn even more what it's going to take. So for a lot of these, young men, it's really understanding that, right? Even if you're down 8 points, Basketball is a game of runs.
Mhm.
So, right, that means 2 stops, 2 scores, we're right back in it.
Yeah.
But if you start hanging your head and jogging up the court, right, we're going to give up another 4.
Wow.
And then it makes it
Yeah.
even harder.
Mindset's
So
important.
the mindset, yes, and that's what my son, my assistant coach, tells the guys. It's like basketball is really it's a mindset game, and it's you're gonna face this adversity, but how are we gonna come back? How are we gonna come through? We don't care that you missed the shot. We may get on you if you took the wrong shot and somebody else was more open, but you missing the shot is not the issue. We want you to take the shot. We want you to take the right shot, though. We want you to play as a team, because as a team, we're better than anybody else out here.
That's so powerful because you use basketball, talk about a game of counts. So basketball has been, what is the symbol of basketball? Even as we sit around, you did not play basketball, but now here you are coaching it.
Yes, I didn't play at a high level. I'll put it that way. I did a little bit in high school, but guys were dunking.
I know.
I don't play against a Fat Five.
But this coaching, though, has a story in terms of the teaching of a father with the brothers. So that's in terms of a game of counts. Your game of count in terms of basketball, you have these stories about basketball that help you through right now with many of the things in your life.
Using what you've learned.
Yeah, and I do, and I think that the biggest thing for me is understanding. I mean, I think that I learned at an early age was that I'm not going to be a coach, but I do understand the game. And as you said, it is a game of sprints. It's a game of surges. And I always tried to say to myself, okay, this dude's going to miss. He's going to miss. But the question in my mind was that, am I ready to make it when he misses? And that's how and it's the same thing in life. Like, okay, these people are going to get this contract today, or they're going to close this deal today. But am I going to put myself in position to be able to, when they mess up or when they miss, they call me, am I going to be able to have the tools to put together that basket or that run in the case of basketball? So it transitioned over time into other things. But that's why I always found it. And I used to always speak a little too much when I was talking to my coaches and stuff. But I used to always ask, did you play? That was like one of my questions all the time. Like, did you play?
Did you play?
Yeah, you can't tell me if you didn't play. But then I started saying, well, maybe they can, because there is such a thing as an armchair quarterback that sits there and analyzes and goes through stuff. And so that even changed my perception on what you saw versus what I saw while I'm in it. And that's life. That's life too. You think about it. So
Importance of teamwork. You miss that shot, don't lag behind. Get back and play defense. Maybe you can have a stop, a steal, or a rebound. Just saying how you can be resilient even if you don't always succeed. And speaking of succeeding, I have to say Timberwolves on a great run. Second round, 2 over Denver. Go Timberwolves. I just had to get that in there.
I know, but I think you did it very well. Thank you.
I didn't want to be remiss.
Right. But I also hear you all, and I know we're probably coming close to time, but I hear you all. I love the way you're telling stories. And it just makes me think about the Black life of Black men and your life. And so the book, everybody wants to know about the book I'm carrying, is talking about, this says advanced claim for the mind and the brain. You're talking about the mind and the brain constantly this morning. And I want it, so the brain, the kind of physical, but the mind and the brain. And there's something in here that talks about the power of mental force. Black men at this point, I think, are acknowledging going to therapy, acknowledging that you hurt, acknowledging that you do cry. Why is that happening now for you?
James, we think some things that evoke emotions maybe that you're feeling?
Or why do you now not feel ashamed to tell people I do cry?
Take your time.
I think about my grandkids when I think about that. When I don't want them to feel what I feel, I guess, you know. I want them to be able to express their feelings because I do understand that we pretty much heal by what we feel more than what we hear. So,
Feel by what we feel more than what we hear.
Yeah, more than what you hear or see. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And I spoke on it earlier when we was taught early on, sticks and stones can hurt your bones, but words can never hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that words do hurt because they get in your belief system. When they turn into feelings and they stick, those are the things that come back and hurt you later.
And those are the things you've had to work through.
Yeah, you done forgot the words, but the feeling is still, whatever feeling is still there.
Yes, my goodness. So therapy actually kind of helps you to do what?
To relate to what you're feeling and being able to express it some kind of way.
I used to go to talk. I used to just go hang out, and I would do what you're doing. Man, did you see that game? And it was one of those.
You mean therapy?
Yeah. And then it became a situation where I think you have to find the right fit for who you are and the trajectory. Because if you don't, then it is going to be a lot of bar talk, backyard talk, basement talk. So you got to find that connection. And I'm very fortunate that, I hear so many people talking about it took me 3 and 4 and 5. Yeah, it took me about 3, 4, 5 times too. But it's when you do connect, it's no longer it's they still call it therapy, but I feel like it's not. I feel like it's a different form. I don't really feel like it's therapy.
And it's teaching. It's dealing with the mind and the brain, and this mental force. Is there a mental force that you now feel coming forward through you that gives you the capacity to do something other than therapy?
Yeah, I'm one who likes to share. I'm a candid person. I'm in therapy with my wife, have been to help us discuss certain things with our family as we grow, how we relate to each other. And I think it's really helped me from a standpoint of seeing that, having different viewpoints, but what brought us together, how we can still raise our children even if we have different roads, but, just to kind of, look at the other person's perspective, be accepting, and then vice versa. And that's really been helpful over the last year or so. It's been really powerful as we deal with different things. My parents passed. Now my wife's dad has leukemia and has uncertainty. So as we look at familial relationships and the things that we're facing and still that we have, that we can lean on each other, it's really powerful. And I've seen that in the last decade, I think, more than I have in my entire
And
life.
that mental force, that becomes a mental force. That is a force, isn't it? That
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, so I definitely see that. So I have the privilege that my wife is a therapist.
Oh, wow.
You have the privilege of being a therapist? That's great.
That's great.
These are there's a certain level of understanding that emotions, feelings are normal. All these types of things are normal. There is a view out there that Black men don't feel. Black men don't have emotions, and if they do, they're somehow soft, right? So if you got a therapist as your wife, it ain't that thing that's coming up. But even within that, right? There's how you're feeling, the mental part of it, right? It can affect your body pretty profoundly. I think we've all talked about that. And then it kind of also affects your interactions with other people. So it's really retraining your mind not to get stuck in that rut or that pattern where it's, hey, this thing is going to overtake me, or this thing is going to, and part of it is talking about it, but part of it is really looking at your purpose and getting, and understanding, getting called back to that, because in that purpose is a power for me to move forward. It allows me to kind of put that thing that's happened in the right perspective. Like, that thing is a rock. We got to step through, we got to step around it, whatever. We got to make a way, but the purpose remains the same. And so that's.
You remind me, though, with a wife, both of you mentioned your wives, and I hear and know, because I am a woman, that women can talk and want you to talk, but you don't. So that's just, kind of what we have heard and seen and experienced. So tell me about this mental force that you now bring, now that you talk, and now that you admit, now that you admit that you have pain.
Right. Yeah.
So
go ahead, Tim.
I do think there is something. So this is what I also learned. Like, right, men use far less words than women. So that means when there's a conversation, right, 10,000 words different in an average day. So that means just by our natures, we're listening more, or we're being talked at more than we're talking. And I think sometimes that creates, so often what happens in communication is you're trying to get a point across, the other person's trying to get a point across, and nobody's really listening. And so if I'm not intentional about listening and participating in the conversation, then there's no spot for me to say the things that are within me. So it's a dynamic, it's a skill I've had to learn, to be mentally present, to be present, to set the stage where I can actually share authentically as well.
Yeah.
Brother James, put your hand down so people can see that expression that I see on your face, because your expression is saying you have some experiences with this.
Yeah, I was laughing to myself, because I used to think women were mad all the time, but then I learned that they was hurt. So I was judging their emotions. But once I got in touch with my emotions a lot better, I can understand my kids' emotions. I can understand women. I can understand people's emotions. But I used to think everybody was mad or angry, but it was a lot more to it. And so when somebody's mad, you more or less want to tell them to get away. But if they hurt, you want to console them.
Oh,
that's really,
yes.
That's really great.
That's really, really great. Yes.
Bring to mind, active listening, where you're actually listening to the person, considering their perspectives, not just saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for my time to talk," which can happen.
Yes.
I can't say I'm not guilty of that myself. And just learning how powerful that is to really get from what's inside you and how you feel. That active listening is very, very powerful.
I think for me, it's active listening, but it's also action. There's a lot of times where I just know that I may have been listening, but I didn't put into action the necessary things that we talked about. It's like, yeah, all right. And then it would just go it would be okay for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it may go back to where we need to have that conversation or that reinforcement again. So it goes hand in hand for me. And I think that it's really been difficult, but it's been fun. It's been interesting. It's been that thing where it's like, man, I wish I would have did this, a long time ago, and how much further. It's that old age, and I think everybody does it. I think we even talked about, what would you tell that 20?
Oh, your younger self.
Yeah, your younger self. And it's like everybody says that, and everybody wants to know, and they and so it's just that part of it is you think about it and you play with that all the time. What would you have told your younger self? Because the situations still come up. They still, those same things come up.
Today,
And it's like, are you handling it any different?
What did you learn?
Learn?
Do you have to go through a lot of pain and struggle to get to the point where you are now, with your ability to hug through listening and also through just touching people? Did you have to go through a lot of pain and suffering and struggle to get here? A lot of things you wish you could have done, you should have done, you wish you had done to get you now where? Because I believe, once again, that struggle and pain brings you to a different place.
Yeah, I agree. I can truly say, both of my parents having the relationship I did. And one thing that really brings back something to mind, I'm trying not to get emotional, but 20 years ago, my wife and I were expecting twins. Now, we lost those twins, and my wife almost had to have an emergency hysterectomy because of an attached placenta. I was there, grieved, consoled with my wife. My dad was working. Guess where I went? Right to my mom. And it all came out. And I was like her little boy again. She consoled me. I felt that connection. And just taking me back to where I was. We always had that connection. My dad too, but it was different. Coming home to my mom.
Yes.
Still having that embrace of
Yes.
my emotions.
Yes. That's so powerful. And then were you able to do the same for your wife who was
Same for the wife too. We still do that today. It's the son we had more complications, but we get through that. And I'm really nostalgic to find about me, and there's just things that, I'm reminded, but I think back to what was, but what I have, and the spirit, and things are in a better place, and we will reunite.
Yes.
And thankful for today.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I don't know. This is your closing. We have 5 minutes.
Okay.
So
5 minutes.
you get to stay where Daryl has taken us.
Okay.
To this place where you are recognizing that you are.
What do you think
What?
about that? We got a lot of great
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia. Memories.
More memory.
Love.
I go through it. I don't know. It's like, for me, it went from days to minutes to seconds. And you talk about not wanting to get emotional and all that great stuff. And I say great stuff because it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to go there. And that took me some time to get there too. But at the end of it all, in a couple seconds to say that I just feel like the time frame got smaller on what I was seeing, what I was feeling, and how I was handling that. Whether it be just knowing, openly knowing, I can't go, my pops ain't gonna get this. Let me go talk to my mom. And I was talking about, and I'll pass it on to James here, but I was talking about when we were younger, my mother used to play The Wiz all the time.
Okay.
She used to play that soundtrack. And that was one of the first soundtracks that came out that was like a soundtrack. And she used to play it all the time. I'd be like, man, where can we go to get rid of this where nobody, gets no trouble? And so then I was sitting up there and I found myself playing the doggone Wiz. And really, but listening to the songs, listening to the words, listening to the inspiration, the motivation, the encouragement, and the fact that, they were trying to go see this dude to get all these things, to make them better, and to make them want to get up, like Terrence said, he don't worry about that. And it's like, but that's what they were doing. It's lying and all that. I mean, so I could go on for just a short time on that, but I think that's where I'll stay. But it's once again one of those scenarios that just brings me there.
James, what's it bring about for you?
Just when Darryl was talking, I could feel, he lost his twins. And then he also had somebody to go and release it to. And I thought it was important to have like a mother and a father, And with me, sometimes the crying, when I'm feeling real bad, if I'm crying for myself, it's a little different cry. But if I'm crying for maybe my people or something like that, which I do, I see what we're going through, and it affects me. Every time I see something out there, and I'm looking at how long we went through things and what we're going through. And sometimes I might feel a little hopeless to do something about it, but it's like, I can't live by myself, but I can live by myself in some ways. And, so yeah, that's what I cry a lot for that.
Mm. Yeah, Terrence, got some thoughts?
Yeah. So it makes me think about that phrase, beauty for ashes. And really, it is truly about us taking these things that have happened, things that happened to me, we felt about it, and reconstructing something beautiful out of it, understanding the full context of that experience and the beautiful parts of it, and allowing those beautiful parts to fuel you to move forward, to express that ripple effect, that acceptance that you felt, to express that to others. And so that's what it brought up for me. Even the things in my past. And as we think about the future, and oftentimes the anxiety we can get about it, for me, it's like that same process. What is the beauty and the possibility moving forward? And how do we begin to take that and allow it to fuel us over in how we touch others? So I thought it was really beautiful, Daryl, what you shared. It gives us a lot of inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone inspiring today.
Yes. I think that the brothers have given us a time every Thursday for a while where you will get with the audience who is sitting listening to this, and we would say to you in the audience, bring a black man with you the next time you're going to be listening to this. I also really want people to know that the person who is doing all the work here, I just want you to have the last word, please. How you feeling right now?
How you feeling, Manuel? He's our excellent engineer. Give him a
good. I'm feeling good. For me, actually hearing you all speak is, I'm actually getting a therapy session back here.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm taking notes like.
No charge.
That's a good note. Even you say you kind of you do therapy with your wife. I kind of do that sometimes with my wife too. And I'm sure your wife's probably like the matriarch or something of her family, because my wife is. So it's like, I'm not gonna say it's my mom, but she gives me that feeling like I need to go and just, decompress, get back into it. There's just the way of the world. Sometimes being black men just, you're already just in the space of just being black, but like all the other obstacles, on top of that, imposter syndrome sometimes, just being in rooms sometimes with folks that you're normally not used to being in, and sometimes you feel like, be here.
Right.
And so for me, it's hearing your voices and hearing your experiences, even from the Black Mothers stream or episodes. Those are even just, it's something. Even when I reflect a lot, just hearing everybody's experiences, and I'm probably one of the younger ones in the room. So just hearing your experiences and hearing your expertise it does a lot for me.
Love that, young brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And thank you so much. And to those in the audience who are young brothers, once again, that's why I say, please bring brothers with you. And we would love the interaction back and forth. So I'm going to say thank you for letting me sit in this morning. Thank you, Nevin, so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
And our theme, no weapon formed against us will prosper. Taking care of our mind, body, soul, and our health, as Nevin laid out there, is our greatest form of wealth. And I want to say this, Elder Atum, not only thank you, can be remiss. Happy Mother's Day coming up. And to all the mothers out there, you too, Roberta. We'll give her a voice next time. And thank you for joining us. And I've heard from people. We're going to see how maybe we get, people to call in, maybe future guests. We have all this in the works. So thank you for joining us. Happy Mother's Day. Have a wonderful weekend.
Everyone.
It always is possible until it's done.
You want to work.